Hey guys, welcome to the show. This is Kelsey Aida, your co-host of Hi Vibin. I'm also here with Miss Lindsay Robinson, and we are here to help inspire you, give you some useful perspectives. And today we have a very special guest who is near and dear to my heart, so I'm really happy to have him on. And we'll get to that in a second. But first, we want to tell you guys a little bit about one of our new partners, LinkedIn Jobs. So if you guys are anything like us and you run small businesses, you need a team of people, you know that hiring the right person can take time, and oftentimes it's time that you don't necessarily have. And urgency can even be your enemy when it comes to finding candidates that are truly meant for your business, because if you're hurrying the process, you might not find the right people. But that's why LinkedIn is the best place to post your job, because LinkedIn Jobs screens candidates with the hard and soft skills you're looking for so you can hire the right person fast. Things like collaboration, creativity, adaptability. LinkedIn looks beyond the work skills and puts your job post in front of qualified candidates who match your business requirements perfectly, even if they're not necessarily looking for a job. That's how LinkedIn makes sure your job post is seen by other people who may want to work with you and be hired by you. It's no wonder a person is hired every 8 seconds with LinkedIn.
You guys can get in front of 25 million plus engaged job seekers, get qualified candidates, and reach people you actually want to hire. So find the right person for your business today with LinkedIn Jobs. You can pay what you want and get the first $50 off with us. Just visit linkedin.com/Vibin. That's VIBIN. Once again, that's linkedin.com/Vibin to get $50 off your first job. That sounds pretty cool.
Yeah, if you're looking to hire anyone, LinkedIn Jobs can help you. So today we are talking with Mr. James Wolf. I know him as James Mendoza, and we have him here because he is a wealth of knowledge and can access many helpful perspectives, and is a very kind, compassionate, I would say, helpful person. And one of his purposes here on earth, and correct me if I'm wrong, James, is to be a guide for people, to help them through the heavy stuff, to show them how to heal themselves, how to love themselves more, have more self-compassion, understanding, and all the amazing things that are like that.
I wouldn't correct you. I think that's covering some of the branches on the tree for sure.
So yeah. I have never met James, and I'm just being in his presence for like the 20 minutes before the show. Like, he's very calming. I'm very happy to be here with you today. So thank you so much for being on the show. And I know I would like to know, as somebody who's meeting you for the first time, what kind of brought you to be the person you are today? Like, what was that journey like? You can go as deep or as, shallow into it as you want to.
Okay. Thanks for having me, both of you. The journey has been insane. We were talking a little bit earlier about like what was my story, or however the question was worded, but it started off with coming to this planet was like the shit hit the fan right away. And what I mean by that is I began going through a lot of initiations immediately. When I reference initiations, I would call them like high level traumas that involve even like near death. And so in the neonatal stage of my life, I contracted or I got, whatever the proper terminology for getting infantigo, or not infantigo, spinal meningitis. Infantigo came later.
Oh my goodness.
So I got spinal meningitis in the neonatal stage, and had to basically, to stay resuscitated, to stay alive, they had to sticking needles in my head as a super small infant. So incubation, separation from those you're supposed to be building healthy attachments with. So what I learned first out of the gate was that I'm alone, separate. And so but alone in a way that not every child experiences. It's like true terror.
Absolutely.
And so the things that I remember about that what I was kind of reflecting on earlier is like having the choice to stay here or to go back to where we go.
And you have like pretty clear or even a vague memory of what that was like?
I do. And the way that I access memory is not the same as a lot of people. I say that because I use more senses, like being an extrasensory. You have the knowledge that you are capable of feeling things with different kinds of feelers, different kinds of sight. And so I was already aware that I had that at that stage. I didn't know that I was different though, in that way, until a bit later. But it wasn't much later that I started to discover that, oh, they're not aware of this.
Yeah, and it's so funny because you'll read about most children don't know that it's different until they see the contrast and they're like, oh, okay, so I better, sometimes kids will lock it away because they don't want to be, have the spotlight on them. So wait, how old were you when you had the meningitis, the spinal meningitis?
It was in the neonatal stage. I can't remember exactly, but
like
what
days,
I've been
right?
told,
Probably
within like a month, I think.
Wow.
Something like that. Yeah.
Welcome to Earth. You have meningitis.
Yeah. Welcome to Earth.
So
do you want to stay?
Yeah. So I don't want to say it got resolved, but you eventually left the hospital, and then you went back?
I left the hospital like after birth.
Yeah.
And then, within like a short time, had to go back.
Right. Okay.
And what I've understood by the linear timeline of it is that a doctor took like special interest in my case and like made it her personal mission to help me stay alive. And what I know from my own resource of understanding is that level of love helped me to stay motivated to stay here, because I wasn't getting that level of love from my caretakers.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. They were in a lot of trauma themselves and experiencing a lot of distress. My father, they never were really married, my mom and my dad. And so it was, how people say, oh, it's an accident. It was like that kind of arrangement.
Right.
And my mom was in a deep level of depression, trauma, distress. She had been through a really tough life too. I'm Native, so we come from a really tough energy history,
Mm-hmm.
Lots of ancestral trauma. So all Natives go through a lot of intense darkness.
Yeah, I would imagine there's a lot of carrying to the next generation.
100%.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And so basically I was like the one to be like the chain breaker of all the trauma within my whole like lineage.
I mean, let's hear it for the chain breakers. I know there's some chain breakers listening too. I definitely am a chain breaker. So props.
Awesome.
It takes so much strength to be able to just say no more. No more.
For sure.
Enough.
Yeah. Yeah. It was our agreement before we got here.
Right.
Come here as the indigos and, whatever everyone else labels as those energy types.
Yeah. So what happened? Like you mentioned there were 3, right? So what happened after the spinal meningitis incident?
Yeah, I went through like my whole childhood was abuse, trauma, all kinds of abuses, physical, sexual, emotional, all of it, everything that you can have. And it was like every day, constant. I was never safe. So I learned to exist in fight or flight, literally. And so it wasn't until I got into my 20s, in like my later 20s, I was in a stint of like being in the world and using the world as a coping mechanism to try to quiet down the pain
And what do you mean by using the world? I have an idea, but.
Sure. Like doing what we do as a lot of young folk, we go and we choose social circles that are really not beneficial in a health sense or in a holistic sense. Lots of like drinking and sex and the whole
instant gratification,
that
material.
experience. Yeah. Anything to numb the pain was
Yeah.
what I was looking for. So I had become a master of coping mechanisms. And so I used all kinds of them, all kinds. So after a really big night of like not really sleeping for a week and just, being in that scene, I was kind of like what, social circles like that would call like a big deal. Or so Kelsey kind of got the end of some of that when I was, she'll explain later when she tells everyone how we met. But like in town, people knew me, let's just say that.
Yeah.
And they knew me because I partied with them. I joined them in their life that way. And I did it because I was looking for my family, a sense of belonging. I was, very wounded and traumatized. So in my 20s, I got the second kind of big initiation near death, and I got the cousin of staph infection. It's called infantigo. And
Wow.
it was like 4 or 5 days of the most intense fever and hallucinations. About the third day, I recall like my breath stopping. And I was living in this like little like studio loft, and it had like a loft bed up top. And I remember being up there just by myself and like all these insane visions and demons and just the most horrendous stuff. This like fever that wouldn't break for days. And I just was like, I think I'm gonna go. I think I'm dying. This is it. I must have something that's taking me out because this doesn't feel normal. Take that with the extrasensory perspective. So any little thing feels like 10,000 times stronger for us. Even like a cold feels like 10,000 times worse. And so I was like living hell. That's what was going on. But I recall the third day, I kind of stopped breathing. And I don't know how long I stopped breathing, but I did. And I came back. And I remember everything shifted, like belief systems. I had done some kind of processing and integration within that astral travel work.
Yeah.
And that place, and things shifted, and nothing was ever the same after that. I just started pursuing awareness, more self-awareness. And one of my relationships, I was dating a musician. We ended up on the couch of a psychic or whatever you want to call this person. And this was the first time I heard the word shaman. And that word has a lot of triggers for people. It even triggers me. But it was the first time that I was like referenced as that energy.
Wow.
And it was intense. It was intense. But that, to cover the second kind of death experience or initiation, that was the second one.
So right after this happens, you come out of it, you wake up, fever subsides. How soon after that did you see the psychic who kind of confirmed to you that you were a shaman?
So I got out of that. My friend from Hawaii like came out of nowhere and visited me, and I like was like, "What are you doing here?" And it was like the 4th or 5th day. He knocks on my door, comes in. He's like, "What the fuck happened to you?"
Oh man.
He's like, "You look like you're dying," and I had all these like sores all over my face and in my eyes, inside my mouth.
Oh my gosh.
And I had this like odor to me that smelled like death.
I can imagine.
It was insane. And so he somehow like got word to my mom, or I don't know, my mom got word of what was going on, and she took me to this doctor that was a naturopath from Peru. So he had like an awareness of the spirit world as well, and the metaphysical world. And I walked in and I was like, what's going on? He's like, you just went through Infantigo and you did it without anything. And he's like, that's so dangerous.
Oh,
He's
yeah.
like,
I'm sure you could feel it.
That can kill you. He's like, I'm not really sure how you made it, but you're here.
So here's the $1 million question then. Why do you
Mhm.
think, because I'm sure you've reflected on this a lot, why do you feel like you had so much motivation to keep coming back?
It's a really good question. I had that reflected to me one time in a counseling session. I used to go to counseling when I was in my 20s. And the counselor was like, I don't know what it is about you, but you should have been dead a bunch of times. She didn't even know all my story. She just from just the stuff that we were talking about that was current.
Dude,
She's like, how
so
are you
many
alive?
people have said that to me. I swear to God.
Yeah.
How are you alive? How are you not being studied by scientists to be so normal as you are? And those are the top things that people say to me when they just hear a sliver, just a sliver.
Exactly.
You don't even if I just went into
know.
it. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
I so understand.
Yeah.
And so
so
she
funny.
reflected to me and she said, you just have this fire inside of you that just won't die. And, that was it was a healthy perspective for me to take in at the time, to show my ability to survive and my resiliency, the resiliency of my spirit, and resiliency I've developed even further within my current practice and way of life in a way that's even I think even better than just enduring, because I believe I was enduring.
Yeah. And now you help people transition from the enduring phase into the thriving phase by healing all their
100%.
unresolved stuff.
100%. Yeah. Yep.
He's walked the walk, folks.
And do you feel I don't think anyone's ever done, but do you feel like you've kind of stepped into your life's purpose? Is this what you're supposed to be doing?
Oh, do I think? I mean, there's not even a question.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I can
never
tell.
even question that. It's such a strong knowing. I was listening to this wonderful doctor. He's a psychologist, Dr. Gabor Mate, and he was giving a speech at a conference, and he was talking about this book. And in the book, it was an actual account of what was going on. I think it was an anthropologist, was walking through the jungle in this remote village with these people, and walked out of the village, walked into the jungle with some others, and he was confronted with one of the tribes that's not really touched by man. And he said that he was just so taken by them because they had no question about what their purpose was in this world.
Wow.
And that's how I feel when it comes to this. They didn't question anything like that. They're not like us where we go what's their purpose? Who am I? What am I doing? That literally doesn't even enter their mind. Or
there's something to be said about too many choices, too many options. When we come back from break, we're going to dive deeper into this with you. I cannot wait to talk to you more. We're going to take a quick break, and we'll see you in a second.
Hi everyone, welcome back. It's Kelsey here. This portion of the show is brought to you in part by Native. At Native, they create safe, simple, and effective products that people use in the bathroom every day. They create products with trusted ingredients and trusted performance. Not convinced? Just check out their 9,000 five-star reviews from their customers. One of those 5-star reviews would be from me because I'm obsessed with my new Native deodorant that smells like, what is it? Eucalyptus. It's like a candle, you guys. It's good. We really love Native deodorant. It's aluminum free. It works great. Lindsay, what do you have to say about this?
Well, my biggest thing is always that it's safe and effective, because I sworn off aluminum deodorant a while ago, especially being a nursing mom. I don't want any of that going on. So I love that it's aluminum free, and I also love that it works because that's the other half of that too. You want it to work. I got lavender and rose and it smells divine. But if you guys want to try it, just go to nativedeodorant.com and use promo code Vibin, that's VIBIN, during checkout, and you guys get 20% off your first purchase as a listener of High Vibin It. Once again, go to nativedeodorant.com, use the promo code Vibin at checkout, and get 20% off. Should I use the joke that I was going to use? Speaking
What
of natives.
Oh, there's a bunch of native people hanging out on this call today.
Yeah. Yes. We're here with my new friend and Kelsey's friend, James. He is a multi-sensory. Is that what the word is? Extrasensory, multi-dimensional being. He's so awesome. I have so many questions for him. But before we went to break, we were talking about kind of how you got into this and the first time you heard the word shaman. And did you reject it right away, or were you I didn't
know what that word meant.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned that it triggers you. So in what way do you think?
I think that there's been a lot of people kind of misuse the word.
I would agree.
What's important for me to say about it is that it doesn't belong to our culture here in this Western culture. It comes from the Tungus people of Siberia. So their indigenous way to describe a person that has similar capabilities and kind of the life story that I'm bringing to you is they call them a shaman.
So what do you call yourself?
I chose the word sage just because it feels very just more accurate to our current culture here, because I wasn't raised by anyone from the Tungus tribe in Siberia, and I wasn't able to be groomed or taken care of by an elder from my own tribe due to colonialism and patriarchy and what happened here in the States, all the Americas, not just the States, all of the Americas. So I have been separated from that way of life. So the way that I had to learn and get initiated was through a lot of hard life, a lot of spirit, the spirits helped to initiate me. And what I mean by that is everything has a consciousness, right? So I had to be initiated by a lot of consciousnesses that go beyond this physical plane of existence. And like I mentioned earlier, a lot of the near-death stuff, that's all I was in relation to near death. That is a consciousness. And so these have been teachers of mine, as well as all of my experience and whatever I was in relation to within that experience. So if my experience was, let's say, how do I know about the dark night of the soul, or how do I know about, sensitivity to foods, or how do I know about clairaudience, or, all the clair abilities, it's through experience and my relationship with that consciousness of those things.
So what, I have 3 questions I want to ask, and I can't decide which one's highest priority right now. Kelsey, how often do you just keep him on the phone and be like, okay, I have another question. Okay, tell me about this. Okay.
Because I always have questions for James, but at this point I know him so well that usually I just have these questions in my daily life and I'm like,
he's the voice in your head now
about this. Yeah. James is definitely a voice in my head.
So let's talk about when you came into the picture. How did you meet him, and how did that go down?
Yeah. So James and I met right before this whole shaman thing. He was doing hair and I had just graduated beauty school, and he owned this really cool salon in Encinitas, California. And he was really talented at doing hair. And I was looking for a place where I could be really creative and charge high prices and work in a high-end salon straight out of school. And you can't really just do that without getting extra training. So after I graduated, I basically became his apprentice. And I remember I walked into the salon on a rainy day And I met him for like 5 minutes. And because he's such an energy reader, he was like, okay, you're hired. Like, it wasn't really much of an interview. He just kind of took me under his wing. Could tell that I was really excited about hair cutting, which him and I are both more excited about cutting than like color and other aspects of hair. And so we bonded initially with that, but also then we just became like really good friends. We had this really interesting dynamic of like, he was my mentor and I was a student, but we were also like becoming really good friends. And it wasn't your typical like boss employee relationship at all. And we just grew close working in the salon together. And then eventually we co-owned a salon together for a brief period of time. And he's been in my life for the last like 7-ish years, I think. Which was good and timely because I've needed him. And I've been through
So what made you like look at him and be like, oh, I can go to him for guidance? Like, did he tell you like, I can help you? Or I don't feel like he's the kind of person that's like, hey, talk to me about your problems. People just do it.
Before he was offering like sessions with people.
Okay.
Before all of that, we would just like talk friend to friend, and he would always give good advice, or we were both kind of interested in studying like spiritual and metaphysical stuff. So he'd be like, oh, have you read this book? Or this is what I'm studying these days, or whatever. And we kind of bonded over that. And then anytime I would go through anything hard and I needed like therapy, I always called James like my spiritual psychologist. I would turn to him for help. And then now like I go see him for sessions and stuff. And it's more, I guess, formal in that way. But we've always been working together in that way, even before he was offering sessions.
I gotcha. Wow. So cool. I guess my next question, because I have so many, would be, how do you know, like, what would you say to a person who wants to know how do you know if you're extrasensory? What are the things to look for to be like, oh yeah, that's me, you know?
Sure. My greatest teacher that I've had thus far is Teal Swan. And I would invite everybody to go research her or look up her YouTube channel specifically. That's an amazing resource of all this free content.
Yeah, I have heard of Teal Swan actually. Yeah.
Yeah. She's extrasensory as well. So I can just give you like how it feels to me to be alive. And hopefully that kind of answers it. But the truth about if you're extrasensory and then you're trying to tell someone what it's like is that they're never going to really fully understand it.
Yeah,
So
it'd be like me telling you
to
how to like give birth. Like, this is what labor feels like. You can't know.
Yeah. And some of us can actually channel and experience that to high degrees, so we would understand. But I totally see. I understand what you're saying.
Yeah.
And I understand that. So being extrasensory, I guess how it shows up for me is you have all of the like major 8 clair abilities is what they say. The psychic abilities, and I always get them all like mixed up, but
yeah, there's a lot of words for all.
There's like so many words that are described.
You're referring to like clairaudient, clairsentient, clairvoyant, that kind of thing. Okay, gotcha.
Yep, all of them. So there's like 8 major ones, and most extrasensories I think I'll have all of them, and so that's how my life is. So it's like when I first got on the call with you guys, I could sense everything that was going on with you guys.
Yeah.
And the overwhelm was huge, right? Because it's like, oh, it's a show, and humans are excited.
Gotta get your energy up. Yeah.
Yeah. So as an extrasensory, like, we're so open that we feel everything, see everything, hear everything, smell everything, taste everything to like this super high degree. And couple that with like a lot of us can touch something and just downloads.
That's me.
Yeah, a lot of us just know, like we have a strong sense of cognizance. Like we don't know how we know, we just know it. We freaking know it, and spot on. It's spot on every time, as long as you're not operating from fear.
Yeah. So how does how does that differ from like an empath? Because empaths are those
I
that
believe empath
absorb.
is like one part of that sensory
Okay.
kind of diagram, or whatever you want to say.
And I'm assuming you've used a lot of time maybe creating some healthy boundaries to protect yourself.
Well, boundary work is like super key for all of us, because boundaries are preferences, they're not walls. And my shadow work teacher Teal teaches that hugely, and it's so true. Like,
Yeah.
When you express a boundary, you're just telling someone like, I would rather have this instead of this.
Right.
So yeah, I have to exercise very strong boundaries. And someone that didn't experience that from an early age with all that abuse, it has been quite a journey to get back to your boundaries and to stay in integrity to them. So you have to be really responsible for your life, because you are so open that a lot of us can develop a lot of like manipulation to get what we need within abusive dynamics.
I see. Wow.
Because if you're not able to get what you need by expressing a boundary, and you're getting shut down by your family or your friends or your peer groups or your caregivers growing up, you have to meet those needs. So people like us, who are also super emotionally intelligent and crafty, we can then turn to unhealthy dynamics like manipulation in a detrimental way. Things
you might have learned in the past that.
Yeah, these are all experience.
Yeah.
And in my household, I learned how to manipulate really well.
Just a side I definitely did that as well. My dad
said,
you are like a master manipulator, but it's because I really wanted to go to this concert, and he said no.
Exactly.
So I figured it out. I get it. So this is just a side question, but like, what's the dynamic like with your parents now? Do you have one?
My father passed away when I was in my very early teens, and I didn't even really know him. I think I met him like less than 5 times.
My instinct is to say I'm sorry, but then you'll be like, yeah, what are you sorry about?
I can understand that you mean that you feel empathy.
Yes.
Yeah. Appreciate the empathy. Yeah. So yeah, he's gone from a long time. Had no real relationship with him. Left us when I was basically in diapers. And then my mom and I, we don't have she can't understand. And so she doesn't really know what to do with me. She feels very overwhelmed, which has been the experience with all my siblings, I would say. And all my siblings are half. I don't have any full siblings.
Oh my God, you're
big broken
my
family.
Life. Seriously.
Yeah. Broken up family in the sense of nothing stayed.
Everybody's having babies with everyone else. Like you don't have any full. I have one full sibling and 7 half siblings.
It's exactly like that. Yeah. And so they didn't know what to do with me because I was the only one like this. And so the go-to was to hand me off to someone else, abandon me, basically. Just I was invisible. So that's why you have to learn manipulation.
Oh man.
But it sucks later, because now you're an adult and you're manipulating people and you're hurting them and yourself.
Exactly.
Which is where the shadow work came in, and I was able to really dive deeply into healing my trauma so that I don't have to manipulate as a way to get what I need.
So then did you grow up with someone that wasn't your mother?
I grew up with my mom, and then she married a soldier, a Vietnam veteran with super high degrees of PTSD.
Oof.
So a lot of abuse came from him and her, but him specifically, he was really emotionally and mentally abusive to me. I didn't really answer from my names, because I've had many names throughout my life, which is so weird to me too. But he would just lots of verbal and emotional abuse. Basically treated me like a little soldier.
Yeah.
And so it was nuts. It was super nuts. Yeah.
Seriously, I can't say this enough. Kudos to you for not only surviving first of all, that's an achievement, just to survive that type of environment and grow to be an adult, but also to use your experiences to not only step into who you truly are, but use your abilities to help others do the same. Like that's, I can't say it enough.
I'm just grateful that my frequencies that were like attracting benefit were able to attract really helpful people like Teal Swan and I've with some other and
that's a great way to look at that. My abilities to attracted the good, like a lot of good stuff that helped you through it. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So we're going to take another break. I need a breather from this. And we'll be right back with James. We'll come right back.
Hey everyone, welcome back. It's Kelsey Aida here. And this part of the show is brought to you by BetterHelp, which is a really amazing resource that can help connect you to therapists and counselors online at a really affordable price. So if you've been thinking of talking to someone but are unsure of where to start, BetterHelp makes it really easy to connect with a licensed professional counselor, caring professionals specializing in the issues that you want to talk about. Join BetterHelp and get help at your own time and your own pace. You can schedule secure video and phone sessions or even text your therapist worldwide, and you can start communicating in under 24 hours. It's a really affordable option, like I said, and High Vibin listeners get 10% off your first month with the discount code Vibin. So if you've been wanting to talk to anyone and you need a little help, a little support, you can get started now. Go to betterhelp.com/Vibin. Simply fill out the quick questionnaire and get matched with a counselor you'll love. That's betterhelp.com/Vibin. And I actually just signed up for this service a couple days ago. And it was really easy to do the little questionnaire. They ask you like what you want help with, why you want help, what type of person you'd like to be matched with. And then they matched me with someone really quickly. And I got going on the paperwork and stuff really fast. So this is a really, really good option if you're like, I really need a therapist, but maybe I can't afford therapy, or I need to see someone online because I can't leave the house or whatever it is. BetterHelp is a really great option and you guys get a discount. So go check it out.
Go check it out. You know, I'm thinking of having a page like on our website or something where people can just access all of our discount codes.
Yes, that's a good idea.
We need to make that. So stay tuned. But in the meantime, we're back with James. Now, James is super psychic, according to Kelsey, and from what I've just witnessed during this interview. Psychic and intuitive and just gets people, I guess, whether you're trying to project a certain thing or not, you kind of tend to see right through that. Would that be accurate? You can see through people's like defenses pretty easily. I know that's what accurate. It is for me, is a defense.
Yeah, I see people's projections and I can see everything that's going on with them, why they do what they do.
Like, for example,
okay, go ahead.
I'm just going to speak from being on the other side of this, like working with James. If I go in and I'm having some sort of emotion, and I might not even be aware of the emotion that I'm feeling, and James will be like, oh, Kelsey, do you feel anxious today? And I'm like, do I feel anxious today? And then I feel into it and I'm like, oh yeah. And then maybe he'll ask me, why do you feel anxious? And I'm like, I don't know. Let me look into that a little bit more. But like James picks up on everything. There's no space for inauthenticity, which is something that used to really scare me in the beginning of our relationship because I didn't really know how to handle it. But now that I've been around him enough, it scares me less.
Yeah. It still scares you, but just less.
Yeah, our protectors, they did a good job there to help us survive the trauma. But what happens is now we use them to keep people from being like, more intimate with us.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because most people will not most people, but we tend to get experiences where people will maybe use that against us, So that's why we like project so that we don't get ourselves in trouble with somebody.
It's like being on the offense constantly.
Yeah, but when you're with someone like me, I'm not here to judge a person's energy or even their projectors or their roles or their attachments that they have.
Mm-hmm.
I'm just here to help you understand them so that you can like go into your true self, like your be who you really are. and stop
Yeah.
using a mask or a role, because it's tiring for you and for the world. It's what's keeping us disconnected as well, is having to constantly access, like, what does this person want me to be so that I'm approved of, or blah blah blah.
Yeah.
You know?
Now, I was going to
Just as an
talk to you about this
example.
during the break, but I wanted to kind of bring it up for the show so that I could get
Okay.
your answer on air. Plus, I didn't know if we'd have enough time during the break. So here goes. When I tell the story sometimes, but it's not the first time that I'm telling it. I was doing my past life regression certification because I am a hypnotherapist. So it's a lot of going in and out of trance during training and going to places. And during our past life regression training, it was a weekend. So it was 2 days, 8 hours a day, just going in and out and practicing and have partnering up and doing this thing. And I always felt from a young age, my dad has had moments where he's told me he's psychic. My mother throughout my childhood has told me that she's got some psychic stuff. She had a Ouija board growing up. Kelsey, I know what you think about Ouija boards, but that's where I learned it from. It's my mother. And they've always been like spirit world kind of thing. But my dad told me, don't open the door, because once you open it, you can never close it. And so that's what I carried into my like adult life, super afraid of anything like that. And I even have, this is a fun fact, I even have a scar on my forehead from when I hit my head as a kid that looks like a closed eye, in case that you need any validation that I have some issues around that. But so during this training, we were trying to go and interview or have a session with our council of elders. And so as I was going into trance, I literally felt, and I remember it so vividly, like either a sweeping of a curtain over my forehead. And I knew deep down that the curtain was being lifted, in essence. Like that's what I felt. And so I had that session and went along my day. But ever since then, if I let myself, and if I really like focus on the channeling of it, you know, you kind of forget things and you let them dull. But for a minute, especially right after this, I would see like sparks, like sparkles, to the point where I saw a really big square one, almost as if someone was reflecting a mirror about this big. And I was like, what is that? I've never seen that before. And then it was during class with my teacher at the time. And 2 days later, he died. And I was like, oh my gosh, I saw it. I had a premonition, like something happened. So to me, those big ones feel more like, what would the word be? Like an omen, I guess. I don't know what the word is, but the little sparks are always energy, unless it's like a blue one. And then I feel like it's like a consciousness of some kind. So if I were to, I don't know what my question is, except the fact that I needed you to know that I'm a little bit psychic too. But
yeah, you're dealing with kind of like a split in yourself.
Oh, for sure.
The split is that your father projected his fear onto you, and then you internalized it.
Oh yeah.
So now that's his voice when you're hearing that. And then you're also having your own kind of like attempt at having your autonomy by going to this training and becoming more psychic. Right? So there's the split right there, but you still, like, as you're, have been here today, we can see both. I'm
a duality always.
Well, everyone has splits in consciousness.
Yeah. So like, do people come, like if I were to say like, James, I want to come to you and do some sessions to awaken my abilities in a way that I feel safe and that I can make sure that I stay in control of because a lot of people, the fear is, I'm not going to be able to control what comes in. I'm going to get possessed or, all this stuff. So do people come to you for that honing of their abilities ever? I'm sure they must.
That's kind of like a dominant reason why.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's also just a dominant byproduct of like becoming aware. You become more fully yourself. So your gifts are going to obviously be a natural byproduct.
Yeah. So, I definitely feel like that's what happened.
It's necessary. Like integration is going to lead us there. Healing of our trauma, which is, unresolved distress, is going to lead you to being more you. More you is going to come with, well, what was I before that trauma? Because the trauma usually is a suppressing of what we originally fully were.
Yep.
So
that's
of course
$1
it's
million
going to
question.
open up all this stuff. And yes, you will be more psychic.
Yeah, well, that's what happened to me when I was healing from my breakup in San Diego, that traumatic experience, and then doing the emotional healing. A lot of it I did with James. then I had like this Kundalini awakening, and I became more psychic than I ever knew that I was. And I could talk to spirits, which I didn't know I could do.
Yeah, it's interesting that you say Kundalini awakening. I hear that a lot. And what I learned from my teacher Teal is that Kundalini is just creative energy. It's active. It's always there. But for some reason, like at some point in history, like it became like, oh, now you're awakened to your creative energy, but you're always using energy to create something. So that's why I just felt it important to say that.
Yeah, that's a good distinction.
Her perspective is valid, because a lot of people reference that Kundalini awakening. It's like, well, you're always creative. You always are creating something.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And the reason why I use that word is because when I was trying to understand what was happening to me, it was the word that came to me in my mind. It was like, you're having a Kundalini awakening. So I went on Google and I was like, what's this Kundalini awakening? And then if you remember, I texted you and I was like, what's going on? And you were like, yeah, that's essentially.
So that was like where you were so that you could interpret it and get to the understanding of what you needed. Okay. Yeah, makes sense.
Yeah.
So how can people like work with you? What do they need to do? What do they need to know?
Well, I have a website that they can go to, wolfspiritlove.com, and they can just send me an email with a photo and why they want, what challenge they're having, what do they want to go into, what do they want to experience in their life that they're not experiencing, basically any of that. And it could be physical, emotional, mental, whatever hardship or challenge, and we'll figure it out.
Yeah.
We'll figure it out through.
What if they don't know? Can they just send you a picture and be like, can you just call me, please?
Well, if they're a match to me, period, there's something to go through. There's something to understand. Yeah. Yeah. If they've, if it's come into their conscious awareness that, this is this guy and this is this thing, and they're looking at me up, and there's something there. Yeah. You don't just like come in contact with me for nothing.
Exactly.
There's something there.
Especially if one of the parties is very hyper aware that nothing happens by accident. It's just going to reinforce that idea that the people that are meant for you will always find you, even if the person might think it's an accident. That's my favorite part of life.
Since we're in the law of attraction, or the law of mirroring, there's a reason. So if I'm in your awareness, there's a reason.
There's a reason. Listen up, people. If you're listening to the show, there's a reason. Yeah. You should check out James at wolfspiritlove.com. I mean, I could just sit here and talk to you all day. Do you have a few minutes after the show to talk?
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Okay. Kelsey?
Yeah.
I
think we're going to continue this party. We're going to bring this party over to our Patreon, and I'm going to plug the Patreon right now. It's patreon.com/high vibe. So if you're interested in supporting the show, you get bonus goodies and content over there.
Discounts, exclusive content, extended interviews, more time with James, wolfspiritlove.com. I'm excited. There was one thing I was going to say, and I don't remember what it was.
I was going to ask a really important question, and I know we only have like 2 minutes till we close. But I was wondering if you could bring to us just a general piece of advice or focus that you feel that the people listening to this need the most.
Perfect.
Okay, let me see if I can tap into everyone. What I'm getting is that they're ready. You're ready. You're ready to go deeper.
Cool.
That's what I would say.
Which is why you're here, because that's what you help people do.
Yeah.
That didn't take you long at all. Let me see if I can tap in. You're ready.
Yeah. It's like lightning. It's really fast.
Fantastic. Yeah. So you guys are ready. That's so funny because on my Instagram, I just put something like that today. It was like, don't worry about it. It's all happening. You're ready for the next part.
You know what that means.
I know. It's so cool.
That means we're ready, Lindsay.
Yeah, whatever. I know.
Whatever.
I'm 100% aware that each time you're talking to people, you are speaking to my soul. I get it. Okay. I feel it. You're like looking right through me. I can't stand it. Anyway, you guys, we love you so much. Thank you so much for tuning in this week. Go check out our Patreon. Go check out James at wolfspiritlove.com. And we are going to continue this chat on Patreon.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye, everybody.